What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best base building guide in Dune Awakening. So I will show you what I've learned by playing about 100 hours. We'll start with the best base locations, then move into the best methods for building different bases, then also we'll go over the different base blueprints and the building tips, and then finally I will show you how to relocate your base to a different spot in case if you change your mind, and much more. And before we continue, thanks to the U4GM, their pro website that provides Dune Awakening Solari and items on all servers with cheap price and fast delivery. They have over 11,000 positive comments, and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to use my discount code KAID for extra 5% off. So let's start with the best base locations. In Dune Awakening, the world is not just a backdrop, it's your biggest adversary, and your most valuable resource all in one. Choosing a base location is not just about finding a spot you like visually, it's about balancing safety, accessibility, and the strategic potential. Let's start with what not to do. Building your base in the open sand is practically a death sentence. The game might allow it in certain areas, but the risk far outweighs the reward. Sandworms are ever-present danger, and they're more likely to appear in a wide open sand area. These colossal threats can destroy your base and disrupt your progress in an instant. Even if a worm does not pop up, then the sand itself is unstable and is prone to frequent sandstorms that can wear down your structures over time. So avoid doing it at all costs. Instead, the ideal base location is on a solid rocky ground. These natural islands scattered across the shifting desert will provide stability and protection. This terrain is much more forgiving for construction, and it's much less likely to attract worm activity. Many of these rocky formations are also elevated, which gives you a better advantage point to spot incoming threats or scout nearby resources. Now, if you are starting out, the Griffin's Reach trading post is one of the most reliable areas to set up near. This zone will serve as a major hub in the early game. It provides access to essential services like the contract boards, vendors, and the class trainers. You'll be returning to it often for quests, crafting, and the upgrades, so having your base nearby will drastically reduce the downtime. Additionally, the surrounding environment of the Griffin's Reach is rich in the early game resources. You'll find iron deposits, fibers, and the components needed to start your first crafting stations and the tools. These resources are critical to get your base up and running. You won't be wasting energy traveling long distances or risking combat just to get what you need. Another key consideration for your base is the proximity to the major farming areas. As you progress, you will encounter places like the wreck of the Alkeon. While it's not ideal as a starter base location due to the distance, but it will become a vital resource hub later on. It's filled with materials like the plasteel, microfluorofibers, and the mechanical parts, which are all needed for more advanced gear and the base upgrades. Once you have a sandbag, traveling between your base and the Alkeon will become manageable and worthwhile. If you are playing with friends or in a guild, your base location will become even more critical. By establishing your base near your allies, not only it will strengthen your collective defenses, but also enable resource sharing and teamwork. When everyone is nearby, you can coordinate who farms what, who handles upgrades, and who can defend against the raiders or the storm. Being near each other will speed up the progression across the board, and can even give you the edge in competitive PvP or the contract-based objectives. Then next, let's build the actual base. The game does not hold your hand, it gives you a powerful system and expects you to figure out how to best use it. And once you've selected a safe location on a rocky terrain, then construction begins with the placement of the foundation blocks. These will form the physical base for everything else you build. From there, you can start adding walls, roofs, and a door, but your options are far from limited. Dune's building system is surprisingly flexible with a modular component layout that lets you personalize your structure however you see it fit. And where Dune Awakening really shines is in how it treats the terrain and verticality. You're not stuck with cookie-cutter flat bases like in many survival games. The game lets you rotate elements by holding the Alt key and scrolling with the mouse wheel, which is great for fitting structures into tight corners or the angled terrain. You can also adjust height by holding Ctrl and scrolling, which lets you stack or embed components into slopes, or even build multi-level compounds. This opens the door to creative freedom. The combination of rotation and elevation means that you can adapt to almost any natural formation, and adapting is essential, as this desert world does not give you many perfectly flat surfaces. And then as you expand, you will unlock functional modules like crafting stations, repair benches, storage lockers, and even garage. These aren't just cosmetic, they're essential. The fabricator, for example, will allow you to turn raw resources into usable items, tools, and components, or more complex machinery. A garage gives you a safe place to store and repair your sandbike or other vehicles. Another crucial system is the force field protection. Even though you're in rocky terrain, the sandstorms are still a major threat. Your base will have a shield that deflects or minimizes the storm damage, and possibly even offers some deterrent against the worms. However, you will need to maintain it. It's worth the investment to prevent the large-scale damage to your structure or the machinery. And remember, size is not everything. A tightly packed but well-organized base can outperform a sprawling one, which is designed with efficiency in mind. Think about how often you will move between the crafting areas, the storage units, and the exits. The less time you spend navigating your base, the more time you can spend surviving and thriving. Next, let's take a look at the blueprints. Once you've built a base you're happy with, then the game gives you the ability to convert the structure into a blueprint by using the solid dough projector. This acts as a digital snapshot of your entire build, including the layout of every component and the structural piece. This is not just useful for relocation, it actually turns your creativity into a tangible, tradable asset. Imagine designing a hyper-efficient, compact base optimized for solo play. Or maybe you can create a sprawling, futuristic fortress designed for the larger guilds. You can save the base as a blueprint and then sell it in the in-game marketplace, or trade it with the allies. It adds an economy of creativity to the game and rewards players who master both design and functionality. What's important to note is that the blueprints do not include materials or the content. They're only templates. If you share a blueprint with a friend, then they will need to supply all the resources to create it. The system will show a complete material list when someone loads your blueprint, which helps them to plan ahead, but they will still need to gather everything themselves. This also means that when you use your own blueprint to relocate, you will still need to physically transport your materials and the machinery. Think of the blueprint as the instruction manual, not the finished product. And as the community grows, we're likely to see players specializing in the base design, creating and trading the high endgame blueprints the same way some other players can focus on PvP, crafting, or exploration. So if you enjoy creativity and want a new way to contribute to your clan or the faction, then mastering the blueprints could be your niche. On top of this, eventually your base will reach a point where it no longer suits your needs. Either way, you've outgrown the area, found a better resource zone, or simply want a fresh start closer to your allies. Then relocation becomes necessary. Thankfully, Dune makes this very simple by using the solid dough projector and a bit of planning. First, you'll want to convert your current base into a blueprint by preserving your design and the layout. Then scout a new location, somewhere closer to the higher tier resources, quests, or the allies. Make sure it's still on the rocky terrain and does not overlap with the enemy territory or the other player bases. Before moving your actual items, claim the new location with a sub-fief. This officially makes it your territory and prevents the other players from building there. And once claimed, start resembling your base by using the save blueprint. But remember, your inventory and the materials do not transfer automatically. That's where the standby comes in. You'll want to make sure that you've crafted a storage attachment before even thinking about relocating. This will allow you to transport much more per trip that you could carry on foot. Depending on the size and the complexity of your build, relocation could take anywhere from few minutes to several hours. Be prepared for a logistical game. Also, don't forget to unclaim your old base after the move. Not only does this free up space for other players, but it also reduces unnecessary server clutter. Leaving an old base behind will clutter the world and may lead it to slowly decaying or being taken over by the others. Relocation is not something you'll do often, so make sure it counts. Pick a new location that serves your long-term goals. Either way, if that's building near elite PvE zones, setting up a faction headquarters, or establishing a trade hub for other players. And now let's wrap up with some high-level advice that can take your base building from decent to pro. First, always respect the terrain. Dune is not a flat world builder like some other survival games. You actually need to analyze the landscape. Is there a slope that you can use for a garage ramp? Can you place crafting rooms into a cliffside for protection? Is there an area naturally shielded from the wind and the sand? I recommend to think about all of these and use what the desert gives you. Next, organize your base for flow. Think about how you will move from one place to another. Your garage should be near the entrance. Storage should be near the crafting machines. Long corridors and unnecessary doors only waste your time. Also, build with scaling in mind. You may start small, but leave the room to expand. Think about adding a second floor later. Build outwards from the strong central hub. Avoid placing walls too close together if you plan to upgrade machinery or add defenses later. Another pro tip, don't forget the vertical defenses. If PvP or raiding becomes a large part of the game, then having watchtowers, sniper points or the high ground entries can give you a big tactical advantage. Finally, use blueprints not just for relocation but for version control. Save your base every day, so if that something happens or gets destroyed, or even if you want to test a new layout, then you can revert back without losing your design progress. So, let me know what you think about this building guide in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my previous videos, where I showed the best class tier list, best character build guides, and much more. So click the screen now, and I'll see you in the next one.